Hi everyone, Lawton from Bad Truck Pottery here. Thank you so much for buying one of the take-home pottery kits. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you've been having fun. We did a video earlier on how to make a turtle, and then we did how to make an owl. And now we're gonna do something completely different. We're gonna make a coil-built bowl. So I've got what came in your toolkit, as well as just a little bowl of water, and then just another kind of a plastic bowl. You'll see what that's for in a minute. So to get started, we're gonna take a little bit of clay, about size for maybe like a ping pong ball, golf ball. Like how we're starting the other ones, we're gonna roll it into a ball, and you're gonna roll it back and forth between your hands. And then I've just got a piece of MDF here. You could put down plywood or cardboard would work really well, or just the regular table, as long as it's a table that's okay to do clay on. Check with mom or dad first. So I'm gonna roll this clay back and forth, starting in the middle, and I'm gonna work my way out towards the edges. And you might be able to see I've got my fingers kind of splayed. And by doing that and by kind of lifting them up and moving them around, I avoid, sometimes when you're doing coils, you get like a flop, 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 and that's because the coil is hitting the same spots on your hands every time that makes it flat. So by kind of picking it up and moving it around, you can avoid that. Now, the thickness of the coil is up to you. I usually say somewhere between your pinky and your thumb. Just depends on kind of how thick walled you want the piece to be. I've got about pinky thickness on mine. So I'm gonna take my coil. If it gets a little long, you can always split it in half and just keep working. It doesn't have to be a super long coil to work. So I'm gonna take my coil, I'm gonna take the end, and I'm gonna start rolling it on itself. Incidentally, this is also how you make a snail shell, if you wanted to make a snail with your clay. I'm gonna keep going until either I run out of coil, or this is as big around as I want the bottom of my bowl to be. Now I have to decide if I wanna have the coils showing or not. Typically they're only showing on one side, you smooth them on the other. You can have them showing on both sides, but if you're gonna do that, you actually have to use your scratching tool and score and slip between each coil, which is a little bit tedious, but if that's the look you're going for, you can definitely do that. But you can see it's not really held together very well. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my finger and I'm gonna have the coils showing on the outside, but have them smooth on the inside. So I'm just gonna smooth with my finger, pulling across those seams. All the way around until all those coils are smooth into each other, like that. You can still see them on the outside, but it's smooth on the inside. This will also make it easier to clean if you want to use it for eating things out of, that kind of thing. So I've got that, and now I'm going to take another piece, set this aside, roll it into a ball, roll it back and forth, roll it on the table or the board, whatever you're working on. Start in the middle, work your way out to the edge, kind of lift those hands every once in a while, splay those fingers, and draw out that coil. And now I have to decide what sort of shape I want to make. I could keep going wide if I want to make a plate. I could go straight up if I wanted to make a cup, but I'm going to make a bowl. So I'm going to attach this where the other one left off, and I'm going to kind of start going up and out. This is a little tricky, but it's not too bad. I'm just going to keep going around. And with each coil, after I do it around, I'm going to smooth it with my finger. Now you could use the back of a spoon for this too, if you have that. You could use like a popsicle stick or a tongue depressor, could work for that as well. But I find that your best tools are kind of what came with you. So smooth that around. So you can see it's now smooth on the inside, but you can still see the coils on the outside. Now, the reason I have this bowl out is because, especially for sort of littler, newer potters, it can be really nice to have something to set this in, and then you can lay your coils around as you go up, and this will hold it for you, and you can kind of press against it. So if you can sort of hold it in one hand and sort of smooth it with the other, but if that's a little bit too challenging, go ahead and use a bowl. It works great. You can also work on the outside of the bowl if you want. However, if you wanted to say have the coils showing on the inside and smooth on the outside, the consideration with this though is that as the clay dries, it shrinks. It's going to shrink probably about 6 or 7% as it dries. The bowl it's on will not. So if you build it inside the bowl, it'll shrink and pull away and be just fine. If you build it on the outside of the bowl, you have to make sure that you pop it off after an hour or two. If you leave it on there to dry completely, it will crack. So it's just something to keep in mind. So like I said, I like to go on the inside, and I also like to have it smooth on the inside because that's the part you're eating out of. So I'm gonna work without this so it's a little bit easier to see, but that's just another sort of aid that you could use to help you along with this. And if you get a little kink in your coil, that's not a problem either. You can always just, like I said, cut that off and use what's left. They don't have to be super long coils. I'm gonna put this where that other one ends and just keep going. And every time I lay a coil on, I smooth it out with my finger. I like to pull from the coil in towards the pot. I think it kind of holds up a little bit better that way. If you pull the other way, it tends to pull the coil off. So I'm just sort of dragging my finger across that seam where the coil meets, and then I kind of go around in sort of a circular motion to smooth that out. You can also, when you're done, if you have like a little sponge or something like that, or makeup sponge, you can use something like that as well to smooth things. And I'm gonna do, I think, one more, and then we'll call this quits. Sometimes with pottery, that's the hardest part, is deciding when it's done. But if you wanted to, you could use all 3 pounds that came in your kit and make a really big bowl. Or you could make, a couple of animals and a smaller bowl, or you could make a couple of small bowls. It's totally up to you. Sky's the limit. Again, I'm just sort of smearing across this line, this seam. This joins these two together, keeps it from coming apart. Again, if I just laid these on there, as it dries, there's a really good chance that the coils would crack apart from each other. They're just not quite strong enough to hold up on their own, especially during transport. So when you bring it to be flat fired, the smoothing will make it much more likely to survive. And again, also a lot easier to clean and to eat out of. So this is a nice little bowl. This isn't necessarily, I guess you could put like maybe olive oil or something like that. A small serving of dip, perhaps. Or this could be a keys dish when you come home, your change, that kind of thing. It's really nice. And again, you can see the coils on the outside, which I think has sort of a nice rustic feel. We call that a maker's mark, sort of shows how the process was done. And then you can use your underglazes. I find that it's best if you let it firm up a little bit and get to kind of leather hard or even bone dry before you put the underglazes on. They just stick a little better. But if you are in a rush, you can certainly paint it right away. That's fine too. And you can paint the coils on the outside, you can paint the coils on the inside. Plan is that when this is done, you'll send me a message. We'll set up a time for you to come by and drop them off. We'll fire it the first time. It'll fire to about 1,850 degrees, 1,900, somewhere in that neighborhood. We call it the bisque firing. And then I will dip it in glaze and we'll fire it again to about 2,230 degrees. Somewhere in that neighborhood. That's the glaze firing. And then it will be shiny and sealed up and safe for food. You can put it in the dishwasher, you can put it in the microwave, all that good stuff. And so that will completely cover these underglazes and also give it sort of a shine. So like I said, you can use those to paint the inside or the outside, do whatever designs you want. And then when it's ready, remember it sort of starts soft and then it gets leather hard, which is pretty tough. That's kind of its more rugged state. You're welcome to bring it to me in that state. It might travel a little bit better, or you can let it get completely dry. If you do that though, make sure that you pack it really carefully in an old t-shirt or newspaper or shredded paper, that kind of thing. We want to make sure that there's no cracks or anything that happen on the drive over. We want to make sure that we can get these fired for you and back to you so that you have a nice keepsake to sort of remember the work that you put into this. So thank you so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a message through Instagram or Facebook or at my email, badtrackpottery@gmail.com. And again, also to set up a time to drop these off. Please also feel free to take a picture, tag me on Instagram or Facebook. I'd love to see the work that you guys are putting out. And thank you so much for your support through all this. Hopefully we'll be able to get you in here for some in-person classes real soon. So thanks again.